Universal access is the third most important point to me as well, of course. So I see people from Singapore, I've been to Indonesia, and I've been to Malaysia, I've been to Pakistan and India. And what I feel is not standardized for anybody. The things that I was teaching international schools in Singapore, like robotics, and when I went to Jakarta in a couple of their what do you call them, religious schools there, and they had not at grade 8, grade 9, they have not even heard of these robotic kits that I was using in Singapore already for a 4-year-old, for a grade 1 or maybe KG person, and they can make a robot go round and round and do all sorts of crazy stuff. But there they had no idea about coding in principle. So there's a big gap, and I understand, and as governments of course need to push that everything needs to be standardized, and that AI is helping us do with the universal access basically. But of course there's still, of course, I understand the limitations with internet connectivity and devices, but more or less now we are getting to a stage where it's accessible to everybody. And now as teachers from these different paths, I have some teachers here who go to really far off villages and all of that. So as teachers, we need to make sure that we can bring the same quality, same standard that I'm doing in Singapore to a remote village in Indonesia. If I have to do a same lecture, if I have to do gravity, I'm going to teach them the same thing. I'm not going to be like, oh no, they don't have internet, they don't have this type of stuff, I don't need to delve much deeper. But that's not fair to them. It's not their fault that they don't have all of those stuff. So as teachers, we need to make sure that my classroom, if I'm giving a lecture on my class and I'm using all of these tools, my teacher who's teaching another class gets to have access to those tools as well. So sharing and communicating with each other is the perfect thing, which as this MeeTalk is one about as well, which helps us anyways to share the content, to share what we learned from our experience and what does not work and what does work. Because the time is now basically to test all of these different things that we have been doing in the past. And I can find out 100 different topics which might work, but then you can find 50 from those topics that had not worked before. So I don't need to try them all over again. So only if I communicate with all of you, with different people all around me, I can figure out like, oh, these are the problems associated with these programs, and these are the good things about these programs. So how we can merge them together to make it an effective learning. And of course, there's so many tools out there, so it's very hard for us to figure out what works and what does not work for each setting. So the only way to make it work is to test it out more. Data is king for artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence gets better and better the faster we give it more data. So the more data it would have, the more usage we have, the better it is going to get as well accordingly. So with universal access, with AI, all of that, we get a lot of, the best thing is the feedback, of course, as I said. So we need to know straight away whether it works or not for this class, for this student. If it doesn't work, it rejects it and gives them another suggestion straight away. So AI can do it much faster, but as teachers, what we need to do, we need to wait maybe 2 days after, okay, I taught you chemistry now, and then only tomorrow I'm going to teach you the next topic on chemistry, for example. So they have this 24 hours where they are uncertain as well whether it works or not works. And as teacher, I have no idea what they're doing as well. So I need to make sure I can provide them that kind of scenario, provide them that kind of help straight away. And the way to do it is, of course, with these apps. And with these apps, as soon as they get something negative, as a teacher, I get notifications as well. Okay, this did not work for this student. These things work for these students as well. So which we are incorporating in the Zengo learning processes that we have designed as well on our end. So it would be, of course, the goal is the same. If you want them to be chemical engineers, if they're studying for chemical engineering, they will all be, the main end goal is chemical engineering, but they will have different pathways around. For me, the best things that would work was, okay, I need to play a lot more, I need to interact with a lot more, I need to communicate with a lot more. For some people, it's just like, okay, I need to do a lot of homework, I need to do a lot of worksheets. So it's different pathways for everybody and how they learn. So some are visual learners, some are just learn, they don't even care what the teacher is speaking. All they want to do is listen. All they want to do is see what they're writing down. So they need to see like, okay, what's really happening? 2 + 2 is 4, but how is it 4? So some people go very deep as well, like why is it 2 + 2 is equal to 4? Why is it not 5? So they need to answer all those questions as well to have a better understanding. So all these students work differently. So of course, the computer-based exams are very vital for this kind of things too, so that once we know that if they don't have a mood or biasness of the examiner, and we can reject that straight away. So the next part is, of course, if we keep using AI, why am I there standing in front of the kids? Why don't I just pass them the whole thing and, okay, students, you're good to go? And I think right now that's what we are kind of testing out now because of the COVID. So it's the perfect experiment in a very unlucky times, but it's a perfect experiment for work from home and from home education scenarios as well. Have we prepared them enough to be sufficient enough that they can study themselves? And that should have been the aim since the start we have been teaching. Of course, we did not know that because we always assumed they will always come back to us the next day. But what we have seen, like I myself have been working with, again, financially needy students as well. They don't care if they don't like it. They don't care. They don't want to come in the next day either, even though without the COVID situations as well. So that's why it's very important for us to always think, what if this particular student cannot come to my class the next day, the next week, or cannot join me for 5 sessions? Am I allowing him enough time to be able to self-study? And that is very vital as well. That's why we are coming up with a lot of self-study, self-study projects, team projects, so that they are independent. Again, information is out there for anybody to see. Google, you search anything, you can find anything. But it's just that how do we make sure that they can find the correct thing at the correct time as well, and they don't waste a lot of time. And that's where, as teachers, we need to get them to be thinking innovatively and creatively, and also thinking outside the box. Like, okay, if I can understand from here, okay, what are the other ways? The other best option is finding somebody who knows maybe something about it and then putting it together. Or maybe I find somebody who knows somebody who can connect me, and then I can do a short video call and they can explain to me. And that's the sort of community that we need to generate as well among them. And as teachers, that's where we need to encourage them to take responsibility of the learning processes as well. And then, of course, we don't want to enforce the learning. I want the students to wake up and like, oh, I'm going to learn about physical projects, or I'm going to learn about chemical processes. Okay, I want to go to school to learn about it. And that's the kind of key relationships that we need to create between teachers and students as well. And that's very vital and important for us as well. And as teachers, we need to be empathic. We need to show our emotions as well, that we are connected to you and we are all working in the same path. If that particular child does not reach his end goal of getting a good grade, it should factor me as well. It should focus on me, like, what did I do wrong? So I need to have that kind of self-thought processes as well, and then include those processes within your lessons as well. So whenever you're teaching, whatever sentence you speak in front of the kids, you need to be mindful, thinking like, how can they learn from it, and what if they don't learn from it? So how can I modify it so that they already have an answer to it? A lot of time we go in and we talk about, like, okay, I'm going to talk again, gravity. I'm going to talk about gravity and gravitons. Okay, but then I don't have a second strategy or a third strategy on what if they don't understand the first part. What about if they don't have to understand the second part? How am I going to make them understand? As teachers, we always think like, oh, they're going to go home, read the books, and they can understand. But that should not be the main aim anymore. The goal is to basically provide them those resources so that they don't waste time in finding those things out. They know, okay, these are the 10 resources. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look at that one, and I can figure out straight away what's going to happen. And that brings me to the role models, basically, and how we as educators need to be role models for them. We do not need to be going to the class saying like, oh, I'm an all-knowing person about gravity. You can ask me anything. I'm a PhD in this, I'm a NASA student in this and this. It does not matter. What we need to tell them is, we are humans just like them. We are still learning. No matter how old we are still in the learning phase. You can teach me as good as I can teach you as well. And students learn best. What I have experienced is students learn best when they learn from, when they teach. So make students teach the same. So if somebody understands it, maybe they have a better idea on how to teach their own age group, basically. And that's how they can connect to it, because they get those examples which they can really relate to, which maybe I would not have heard of. TikTok, for example, I have no idea how that works. But if they can explain these things through TikTok, it works perfectly. Just let them be. It works out for them. So that's how we need to be role models for them. As I'm not a person who knows everything, but at least I'm a person who can figure out things faster. And that should be the aim for the students as well, like how I can figure these things out faster, or about how I can find solutions for the complicated solutions. So I think I'm coming towards the end part of it as well, on what to take out of this whole journey is through this workshop is basically like, we need to focus on making it a super fun experience for those students. If it's a fun experience, students will be interested. Students will want to wake up to come to Mr. A or Akib's class. So you want to make sure, like, you know that, okay, which student is not loving it, and then try to see what makes them tick, what makes them happy, what makes them enjoy the class. So try to focus on those elements. I know there's a lot of different paperwork as teachers we need to do nowadays, so many different things. But I think if we jump over those elements and then make it a fun experience, all those paperwork will become easier for us as well, because everybody's doing a good job. And then with AI, paperwork can be done automatically anyways. So we can try to focus more on the experience part, and that's what we need to push to the school administrators as well. That I'm not going to just do paper marking. It doesn't make sense for me to paper mark when I can make when I know that, okay, my class is not doing well. I need to make sure that I can do a better job for them in the next session as a trial class, give them an extra class, to make it more interesting. So you should be working more on those aspects rather than paperwork, which the computer can do for us now. There's no point in spending so many hours on doing menial things when we can be doing things that really matter. A child should love to wake up every day to come to school, and I think that's the thing that we used to have, I think, long during the Greeks and Roman stages, when people would love to read, they would want to learn, they would want to understand different concepts, they would go to these different people to learn about it. But right now, it's always like, it's 7 a.m. Okay, wake up, and oh, mommy, I don't want to go. I'm sick. I have all sorts. You see, I'm sure you hear all sorts of reasons as well to not go to the class as well. And that kind of scares me as well. I have a 3-year-old as well. I don't want that to happen. I want them to wake up with vigor and like, okay, I want to learn this today. And how can I learn that? Is it through social media? Is it through a teacher? Is it through a school? No matter what they choose, they need to be able to learn that particular, because that's what their interest lies in. And that's, I think, the hardest part that we are still trying to figure out as part of schools. Schools take place, and especially now that there's no actual physical going to a school. So now we need to create these fun environments for them where they can actually just click, and have those fun and interesting topics for them to use as well. And this AI tools can gamify the whole experience and make us learn and understand things much, much better. And finally, of course, embrace technology. I've heard so many people, of course, I think even my parents are like, oh no, you're always on computers, you're always on mobile, you're always on iPad. So what we need to focus more in that is, okay, let them embrace technology as long as it's being used for the correct reasons, of course. So it's right now the glasses, so we need to understand the science behind it. So the lights and all of that is not really that dangerous to their eyes anymore, basically. It was like 15 years ago, 10 years ago, when initially we created all these devices. But now there's so many tools that can actually modify the brightness with the blue lights and the red lights and all of those kind of things, which we can monitor. And worst thing, if you really want to, you can put timers on it anyways. But let them embrace technology. Let them figure those answers out themselves. The more they teach themselves, the better they're going to learn as well. So as I said, so the best way to teach them is to let them teach somebody else. As soon as they start teaching somebody, they will have more questions to answer for themselves. And that's where they can actually think about creatively on how to answer those things. And if they cannot answer, they will, of course, go to technology, go to you, go to their friends to ask those questions so that they can have that particular answer as well. And in this case, of course, Khan Academy, BrainPop, GenieBook, so these are very vital resources, of course. Some are paid, some are free, of course. And more or less during these times, any school can ask any of the paid applications to give you for 1 month, 2 months, 3 month free memberships. And you can at least try those out and then figure out, okay, do I really need this particular technology? Yeah, as I said, so there's so many technologies out there. So I've tried to put a few on each of the topics as well accordingly. And then I have like a list of 10 to 12 different technologies that you can use as well further. But of course, the whole idea is to let them embrace technology. And as teachers, we need to embrace technology as well. We need to get rid of writing on board kind of scenarios where you assume that once you're writing on the board, every child is looking at the board as well. And we know now that's not really happening. So how do we use the board effectively as well? Draw diagrams, draw pictures, or let them come to play games on it. So that they know that this is not a teaching board, it's a game board, you know. And as soon as we change the whole education thinking dynamics, everybody gets involved. So these are some tools that that I have. Cerebri for maths is brilliant, and I've been talking to a lot of these folks. With one of my good friends as well, and it's one of the new tools from NUS side as well. PhDs and all of these people designed it, and the way it works is very beautiful. That if you're learning algebra, it will automatically generate an equation, algebraic equation for the student if you're learning the first time, and that will be the easiest way. It's not a repository of millions of questions. It will just pick and choose. It will actually generate a question, just like how we generate new questions every day, millions of times, I guess now. So Cerebri is an automated tool which will generate the questions automatically, and then it will test how good were you in solving, or maybe you solve until three levels. Oh, okay, so maybe you don't understand the fourth level. So it will try to find you another equation which will teach you about the fourth level. And it will give you 3-4 times and make sure once the AI knows that, oh, you already understand this particular set of equations, okay, let me give you a complicated part. So that's how it will keep on increasing the levels of it accordingly. And for some who are good in algebra, may just take maybe 20 questions and it will say like, oh, you're past grade 1, grade 2 level already. But for some, it would take 200 times. But that's not the point. So the whole point is we need to tell the students that it's okay to fail. It's okay to not get it correct. The more you practice, the better you will get at it. And that's how we need to make sure that we ask them to basically, as I said, embrace the technology as well. Splash Math is another for math as well. Gradescope is good for grading English and science topics as well. Noji is kind of learning different vocabulary words as well. So if you're teaching them scientific topics with just words, you can ask them to do that. And I have used that in our science topics as well. So whenever I'm teaching any science topics, or maybe after 5-6 different science topics, I will do a Noji lesson plan where we pull out a card with a name, with a scientific term, and they need to tell it to the class what they understand about it. And that way I can understand what they have, what they can say, and what they can understand, and what they cannot understand as well. Hubert AI is very good in feedback gathering. So if you teach a lesson, you use this straight away so that you understand where, as a teacher, you are lacking in delivering the lecture. Which points did you not cover that which points the children cannot understand. So that is very important for a teacher as well. So that then once you go to the next lesson, you're already thinking like, okay, maybe I need to focus more on these aspects. Maybe it was boring. Maybe the kids are snoozing. So how do I make it interesting? If it's still boring, the students are going to sleep in your class. So how do you make them interesting? So the feedback is important. Odyssey is very fun for geography tools. Nuance, again, is good for transcribing as well. By transcribing, so they will say out the words and it will automatically write it for you as well. And this feedback really helps them to go things faster as well. Alta is a great tool for higher learning. Cogni is a virtual learning assistant as well. With virtual learning assistant, so they can actually speak to the computer, ask them more and more questions. For example, again, gravity, so they can ask them, how is gravity generated? How does it affect on Mars? How does it affect on Moon? So there's so many different things that they can do accordingly with the virtual learning assistant, where they can actually have a chat and a very deep chat as well with some of these virtual learning assistants as well out there. So that basically helps to take out teacher from like answering those very basic questions. If they cannot really understand, then they can come to a physical teacher, and then they can actually have like a classroom setting where they can actually go through some tutorials and make sure that they can really understand. Quizlet is brilliant. I'm sure some of you would be using it for quizzes as well. It's very fun too. So these are some of the AI tools, and as you can see on most of my slides up there, so you can see like Khan Academy BrainPop Genie book, then you have Zangu and a lot of lists over here for personal. So you have like more AI tools there for you, and I will pass it to the moderator to share with you all as well for this. Keep writing your questions as well. I'm almost at the end of it. So basically, other fun, just the tech tools. I love Slido because it can curate the question answers for the teacher as well. So you can put a link at the top of your presentation at the beginning, and students can keep writing the questions from the scratch, and they can upvote their questions. So the most upvoted question means that a lot of people want to have an answer to that particular question. So you will see it at the top on your own dashboard as well. So that would help you a lot. Kahoot ID is a perfect tool for a quick MCQ, fun MCQ, where you can see like, okay, how many of them are getting wrong, how many are getting them right. You get a report at the end as well. It's free to use on the very basic level, both of them, all three of them actually, but then you can pay for detailed reports and all of that. It would really depend on whether you want to use them or not accordingly. But Kahoot, I love it because you can, every lesson you should have a Kahoot lesson, Kahoot MCQ, no matter, even if it's the 5 to 6 MCQs. And the good thing is it has a repository of all the topics that have been taught again by, there's so many teachers across the world who have made different lesson plans and made it available free of cost. So you can just pick and choose as well if you want to. If you want to create your own, of course, go ahead, that's lovely. But you can literally pick and choose a topic, aces and bases, and you can have like a 20 question answer kind of quick session, quick 10-minute session at the end of your lesson plan. And that's a perfect thing because that will actually help you. Like, okay, so what are ACIDs, for example, and somebody's getting it wrong, you know that, oh, maybe I didn't teach them correctly. Okay, so I need to focus, make sure the next time when they come in, I do a review and make sure they understand that particular thing. If they don't understand ACIDs and bases, there's no point in going to the next topic, which is related to ACIDs and bases. So you need to make sure the base is clear first and then go to the next. And Kahoot.it helps you greatly. Flipgrid is perfect tool for asking students to give video projects, picture projects kind of things. So a lot of students don't really ask questions in the classroom, but with Flipgrid, they can just record a video and they can give you lessons accordingly. You can do a whole sorts of a variety of things during it as well. But the best thing, again, the minimal thing that you can do is you can post 1 or 2 questions and ask all the class to post, maybe in teams or individually, to post the answer of it with a video. The reason for it, the video, is basically we want to give them the confidence that in a physical world, when they are into workplaces, when they have their own companies, they would need to stand up in front. So we want to inculcate their feeling that coming up on a video screen, coming up on a video recording is just fine. It's just another face. So you need to be able to be comfortable with that. So I think the last part for my project is presentation is about Zangu, where I'm involved with right now. So it's a language learning program where we teach 4 to 10 years how to speak any of the languages. So we have about 8 to 10 different languages right now available. For now, the app, in essence, the Zangu app, is available free of charge on PC, iOS, and Android. You can download and play it for free. It's a very gamified version where you speak and you get it correct or incorrect. And the next word, AI chooses the next word accordingly on how to make the pronunciation better accordingly as well. But we also come up with a full-fledged system, language learning system around the game as well, where we as teachers can teach your class, or we can train the teacher to teach the class accordingly as well, where we have a whole list of lesson plans according, and they can use those accordingly as well in their classes with a breeze. So we have teacher portal, parent portal, student portals as well. You get all sorts of data and visualizations accordingly, which can help you figure out what words the students are not learning, what words they can learn, and how you can help as a teacher to make them understand about these different words. So it's all done by AI as well. So it's a perfect tool that we have the beta already out, and you can, if you have more questions about it, of course, go ahead. If there are English teachers around it specifically, then of course we can talk about it later. All my details are on my LinkedIn, and my email is stated on the top page as well, and you can get more details from other people separately as well. Thank you so much for listening. I hope I was not that fast, and I hope you guys could understand things. I'm open to questions now.
Okay.
Let me read through the chat first, I guess.
Yeah, thank you, Akib, for the sharing about how AI play its role in our education system. So I saw some questions already in the chat room. So
okay.
while we are discussing about the questions that already put there, so maybe for the other participants or for those who join after we do the opening, so maybe you can start typing your questions in the chat room. So
Okay.
you can leave your questions, and then we will try to discuss the question first in the chat room. Let me see. We have question from Antonius from Indonesia.
Okay.
So how can AI can improve the personalized the learning process? Can you give the best practice in learning process activity?
Okay, so in this case, basically, of course, how AI, again, artificial intelligence is working is basically in terms of choosing the next step. So, for example, if I cannot understand 2 plus 2 equals 4. So what am I lacking? What I lack is basically the basic understanding, like maybe what is 2, maybe what is an addition, maybe what is 4. So I don't understand that. So the next part the AI will choose is not going to be 3 plus 3. Since you don't know 2 plus 2 equals 4, maybe I'll try out with 3 plus 3 equals 6. And that's how naturally the textbooks usually go with, right? So you get difficult answer questions straight away. So, but AI would do is it would take you one step back and then tell you, okay, let's start with 1. What is 1? And how we get to the number 2. So you add 2 ones and then you get 2. Okay, so now that I know how 1 works and how addition works, now I know, okay, maybe the basic 1 and 1 makes it 2. So how many 2s do I need? How many 1s do I need to make 4? So I would put 4 ones maybe, and then I can group them together into 2. So 1 and 1 is 2, 1 and 1 is 2, and 2 plus 2 makes it 4. So AI would basically help in tracing steps back, a few steps back, to make sure, oh, you did not understand the complicated question. It doesn't make sense for me to give you an even complicated question or similar complicated question. The best practice would be, okay, let me take you a step back, and it will give you an easier question first and then start all over again. So it will make another path for you all over again. So if you were going in one stage, and then it will say, okay, so you were going correctly, 1 plus 1, 2, 2 plus 2, 4, 3 plus 3, 6, but now 6 plus 8. Oh, it's totally different now. So how do I do this? So it will take you one step back, make sure that you know what 4 plus 4 means, and then take you another trajectory, now 4 plus 5, 4 plus 6, now 6, 6 plus 8. So it will make another different path for you automatically. And that's, as teachers, it's really hard because we can't personalize for every student. Some schools have 30 students and some have 50 students. So as a teacher, I cannot really figure out, okay, you do this. So if I have the technology, AI can easily help me do that for that particular student automatically.
Okay.
I hope that answers.
Okay, so yeah, hopefully that answers the question from Antonius. Okay, so let's go on with the next question. We have a question from Dexter A. Moreno. It's from Philippines. Uh, AI really poses a lot of opportunity for two teachers and students for learning. And our main role as a teacher is not only educating them with skills and knowledge, but as well as their character formation. So how do you assess their behavior while using this AI? That's the first question. And then second question, how often do you apply AI in your lesson? And in what particular part of the lesson it works the best?
Perfect. Thank you, Dexter. So this is a very important question, of course. So I think why we don't want to embrace technologies is the emotion factor, that as soon as you take out the teacher from there, it will become like a very robotic lifestyle, basically. So what AI is trying to do now is AI does not want to take them. That's why in one of my slides, it was like, why are we still needed? Why as educators, we are very important. And I think the curriculum designing part, content designing part, this, as I said, there's millions of content designers out there, which are free to use as well. And mostly as educators, we try to Google and mix things up together to make a content for this particular class. But why waste time on doing all of that when I as teacher can focus on, as you said, the corrective development part, which is to focus them to make sure how the learning process works, how I can make things interesting and fun for myself so that I'm not bored out of it. I don't want to spend 6 hours in just memorizing the words. It wouldn't help me. You memorize the words for 1 year, 2 years, and after 1 year, you wouldn't remember anything, and you would have to go back to the drawing board all over again. I mean, to be fair, to be honest, I did my chemical engineering in 2013. If you give me a chemical engineering questions now, I will not understand anything. But what I did learn from the whole process, was how I can get to the answer. Give me 2 days and I will give you the answer. And that's where a teacher can explain, and teacher can come in to train them how to find the perfect answer by utilizing, of course, all the content around there. And since there's so much content, AI can basically help us in giving us some specific groups of those content, which as students, they don't need to go through the whole entire internet to find the answer. As teacher, I can basically give them some suggestions, which I know will help you because it's very directed. And as teachers, we understand our students much better. We know what they want, we know what they like, we know what they do, because we're part of the community, we're part of the culture. So it makes it very easy for us to tell them like, okay, I'm sure you're not going to understand English videos. Maybe you need Bhasha videos, and that's how you can understand. So I, as teacher, I can put those videos for them. So I think that kind of answers the corrective formation. So maybe more focus more on the journey towards finding the answer rather than giving them the answer. I think that's how I would answer that. And how do I assess the behavior while using this AI? Of course, so the assessment is basically just through feedback. Basically, I try to get AI feedback kind of scenarios in all of my lessons at the end. So I give them 5 to 10, as I said, so like Kahoot.it. So you can have AI process there involved as well, which can automatically generate the data for you. What topic were you really interested in, and what topic you were not interested in. So in the not interesting part, you need to focus more your energy on basically like how do I make that particular topic interesting. And that's why AI can generate those data for me and maybe tell me straight away, okay, Akib, you need to discard this video or discard this content. You don't need this. It's just taking far too much time and it doesn't interact with students at all, right? So you can maybe give this as a side project or side homework. If they want to study, they can go ahead. But why do you need that if nobody's interested in it, right? So either I find an interesting subject to put inside, or I just discard it and then like figure out how do I make a new project that can help them accordingly. So AI can, so a lot of these tools that I've shared, they do that automatically for me. So I give a lesson, students give the feedback, and it compiles things, mixes things together, takes it apart, and like fine tunes the whole lesson plan for the next teacher. So that's why the community helps anyway. So the more data we have, the better the AI will get at subscribing, at giving us suggestions accordingly. And then in what particular part of lesson it works with, I think for now, because it's really hard to just put them totally on AI, the best part is the question and quiz time. And I don't mean like those 62-hour test and examination kind of thing. It's just 5-minute, 10-minute of test that you can give at the end. Just use these technologies for the last 10 minutes. Maybe 5 minutes at the beginning and last 10 minutes. These are the maximum 15 minutes you need to use with technology. And I think you will already get the students be interactive enough already. And if you have an ongoing, like a question answer style kind of things where you have like a list of questions generating and students can read the questions and upvote it accordingly, a teacher can, instead of like waiting all the way to the end and like, oh, no time, okay, I'll answer your question next time. It defeats the purpose already. So the teacher can stop straight away and like, oh, this question, like 30 out of 30, 26 people are asking. So that means there's no point in me going forward. There's already a problem behind. So I need to answer and manage those questions already. So that's why you need to have a running feedback question, which I think Slido does for you. And there's a lot of other technologies that does for you. Even Google Classroom, even Google Presentation can do it for me actually. So those things can do for you. And then the last 10 minutes is a good summary feedback that you can do. And don't take it as a test for students. That's the wrong mindset, I think, as teachers that we have been inculcated. It's not a test for the student, it's a test for the teacher. If a student is getting a wrong answer, it was because I didn't teach them properly, or I wasn't interesting enough for them to pay attention to me. So maybe gauge that as a reflection, and then the subsequent lesson you can always upgrade that. And of course, make sure you share that journey with your teacher as well, who's running the same lecture as well accordingly.
Okay.
I hope answer the Dexter question as well.
Yes, okay. So that's the question from Dexter. I saw he asked another question, but later, okay, we will go according to the order first.
Perfect, yeah, I love it.
We have another question from Patty here. Actually, she asked 2 questions, so the other one is a bit late, so a bit to the down part. So the first question is, how do we know that the students get the benefit from the AI learning apps?
Yeah,
and then the second one. Okay, you want to explain?
So let me answer so as I said, so it's I think taking over from the last question as well, which is the test at the end of lesson actually literally helps you out to figure out whether AI is helping them, the parents are helping them, the teams are helping them, the projects are helping, any of that. So if you monitor your last 10 feedback questions in each of the lesson, it will easily tell you where you are lacking or where the AI is lacking. So you can really quickly figure out what is the problem right there and then, rather than, because right now I think how we work is we give out 2-3 months of lessons and then we take a test. it's already too late. What happened if a child did not understand the first lesson on the first day of the 3 months, right? So it's already too late for that particular child. So we need to incorporate that exam kind of thing at every lesson so that we know what we are teaching them, and are we taking their journey across throughout the lessons accordingly towards that exam, so that once they do the exam, it should all be A grades for everybody. If somebody is lacking, somebody is getting lower marks, instead of pointing at them, you need to reflect. As teachers, we need to reflect on ourselves and then figure out, okay, where I did wrong and how I can use the AI accordingly as well.
So it's like both sides reflection, you mean, right?
Correct. So both can easily reflect accordingly. Maybe the AI tool is not, all AI tools are not, again, AI tools themselves need to be personalized for those students. So some require a lot of touch, some require a lot of typing. So I am like more like a writing type. I don't like touching and like video recordings and all of that. So we need to, again, every individual is different, and we need to find that specific technology that can help them as well. And that's where I think the list can help them, and that's where the community can help as well in figuring out, okay, my school can use these 10 technologies. We will use these two as our main priority for, because most students can use those. And then if somebody cannot use them, it doesn't matter if they can't use these two. They can go to the third option, fourth option, fifth option, as long as it helps in their journey.
Okay, because the lesson is not like pre-requirement of the next lesson, is it?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully that also answer the question from Patty.